um, I have heard that if it wasn't for the beekeeping industry, the major industry of beekeeping, that colony collapse disorder would have already wiped out all the bees.
Okay,
Anyway.
say that one more time, because I'm thinking I believe it's the opposite. But go ahead and say it one more time.
If it weren't for the industry of beekeeping, all of these beekeepers making money off of having bees, if it weren't for them, the problem with colony collapse disorder that we're experiencing, which it seems to be the general consensus is from carbon and the air pollution and the spraying of plants and stuff like that, we would have already lost most, if not all, of the bees in the world.
Okay, I do. My belief is the opposite of that.
You think beekeepers are killing all the bees?
I think, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I believe it very strongly.
Why is that?
So the bees are succumbing to weakness. I mean, it's like, let's say you are seriously run down. I'm going to have you run laps 14 hours a day, and I'm going to have you do all this exertion. And then the only thing I'm going to allow you to eat is going to be whatever you can find in the wild on your own, only I'm going to take that from you, and I'm going to feed you back just plain sugar water. In fact, I'll let you flavor it. I'll give you Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid's the only thing you can drink. Okay. Now, here's I mean, my video, I've got a video about colony collapse disorder. And in it, I think I list off 12 different things that we do. One of them is that, and I, as part of my colony collapse disorder video, I went and I interviewed several conventional beekeepers. And they're talking about how they've got like 25,000 hives, and then they'll move them 6,000 miles a year. And they'll take
almond fields or whatever. Yeah.
Right. The almond industry gets like, I think it's 70% of the bees when the almonds are in bloom. 70% of all the bees in the United States, of all the honeybees in the United States, are at
those,
the almonds sites.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they get moved around to the different kinds of fruits and berries and whatnot. So basically, think about it this way. You know, when you've got a bee colony and your native places to hang out, like in an old hollowed out tree or something like that, then and then you go and you get inside the hive and everything's good, and then you go outside to go get some sweet ass nectar, and then the door is blocked. You know, is that part of your natural thing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay, no, it's not. And then when it finally opens, you've been moved 1,000 miles away. And it's like, whoa, everything has changed. It's like we're on a different planet. And so, I mean, do you think that that's like making the bees like good? Not to mention,
no. Yeah, there's far better ways to do it, I think. You won't make as much money, which is why they do these horrible practices, or some of the horrible practices that they have. But yeah.
Does it stress the bees?
Yes.
And then when you make a long list of all the different kinds of things that they do to stress the bees, which includes, we're going to give you foundation that's already set to a size that's bigger, so that way you can go and haul more honey.
Mm-hmm.
And now you end up having more time in that cell as you're, growing into a bee. Then that's when the mites attack, and then the mites, become your parasites. And then so now you've got a mite infestation. Then you hose the whole thing down with poisons in order to try to poison the mites, with the idea that you're going to put just enough poison in that kills most of the mites, but only kills a few of the bees.
Mm-hmm.
And that this is so there's this whole miticide toxins in everything in there. Now, do you suppose that stresses the bees?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't answer the question of
taking away their honey and giving them back sugar water. Does
right.
that stress the bees?
Of course.
So
Yeah.
now, I'm saying there's like 12 different things that they do that stress the bees. And so my question to them is, what the fuck did you think was going to happen?
Right, but we're seeing colony collapse disorder happen on like hobby beekeeping farms as well, where they're not doing that kind of stuff. That it's just someone's backyard or wherever, and they got some hives, and they're giving them, they're making their feed for the winter is just their own honey back to them.
So we've got all these people that are raising bees on their own, and they're trying to learn how to do it. So now you've got this hobbyist beekeeper who is putting in way too much miticide, who is swapping out the honey at an inappropriate time, and feeding them back not only sugar water, but really low quality sugar water that might not even be prepared correctly. I mean, so you've got all the problems of the commercial bee industry only being done on a more fucked up scale, in a more fucked up way. And so is that, if it's done in a more fucked up way, but they're not moving the hive around, I think that they're adding stresses of a different kind. Now, the thing is, I listed off 12 things, not right now, but in my little video, I listed off 12 things. And all I'm saying is that if it was only 2 or 3 things, the bees would roll with it. The bees would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you get up to where it's 7 or 8 things, something's got to give.
Yeah.
And now I just recently finished reading The Song of Increase by Jaqueline Freeman. What a magnificent book. Now, I've exchanged a ton of emails with Jaqueline where I'm talking to her about all this stuff, but it's a radically different bee book. And at first I thought, damn it, Jaqueline, that's a stupid title. And then I read the book, and it's like, damn it, Jaqueline, that is the perfect title. And so,
for those that want it, I have posted it in the notes. Those watching in the Zoom. Otherwise, it'll be in the show notes. That book.
So in the book, and it basically, I am an arrogant fucker, and so my emails to Jaqueline were like, I want you to rewrite the book, okay? And here's all the stuff you're going to say in the next edition, okay? So
How'd that
poor
go?
Jaqueline. So I got a lot out of the book, and I want her to go farther. I want her to repolish the whole book, and I got ways I wish for her to repolish it. And so, but the key is I know this. I've been to Jaqueline's place many times, and her husband Joseph, his whole thing is kind of doing that horse whisperer thing, but he kind of feels like, yeah, doing the horse whisperer thing, that's like level 5. And then what Joseph does is more like level 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like the horse whisperer thing is kind of like, yeah, that's weak. But I know that what both of them do is they go out with their animals and they will sit with those animals for days. So Jaqueline has hundreds and hundreds of hours spent in sitting with the bees. She's got like this elaborate setup so she can go and sit out there with the hives all day long, every day. And that's what she does. And she listens and she watches. She's obsessed with this. And it's like, so I'm gonna say a thing, and almost everybody watching this is gonna think they're gonna turn it off because they're thinking I'm full of shit. And they're thinking Jaqueline's full of shit. And it's like, that's totally cool. You think whatever you want to think. You go ahead and judge me and you judge Jaqueline, and this will all work out great in the end. So Jaqueline believes that she has set up a form of communication with the bees. Now, and frankly, I believe that she has. Now, Willie Smits was out here a couple years ago, and the dude speaks 40 languages, and he has had conversations with, and of course the big thing he's famous for is saving orangutans.
Mm-hmm.
And so he believes that orangutans have a pretty impressive language, and it's their language, not where somebody's taught them sign language or something like that. Their language. And he believes that for several different animals, he has learned some of their language. Now, of course, there was a documentary a couple years out about turkeys, and this guy spent years hanging out with a flock of turkeys or something like that, and he came up with like 17 different sounds that they make that mean, 17 different things. So I think that there's some validity down this path. In fact, I'm just simply choosing to believe that Jaqueline does have this communication with the colony, and that it's unconventional and weird. Okay? And that she's trying to convey some of what she's learned from these conversations into this book. And I really enjoyed the book. But the key is that what the bees seek is like a glorious divide, if you will. So basically, the swarming. It's kind of like it's how a full-on colony reproduces. And we all have sex drive, and I'm not saying that this is sex drive at all, because it's not. But what it is like, if we do a good job as being a worker bee, then we will get to experience in our lifetime the great divide, the glorious division, where basically they swarm. They're gonna go out into the world and create a new colony somewhere, and leave behind a new colony. And so it's like this is the glorious thing that they hope to do someday, but it's only if you work. And part of it is like, okay, there's a sound that goes throughout the hive, and the whole colony makes a different sound based on different things that they're doing. And so when things are good and they're bringing in lots of nectar, then they're making lots of honey, and they're laying more eggs, and they're growing. It's the song of increase. And so this is what they're doing right now. Everything is optimal. Everything is grand and glorious and awesome. They're growing. And if they do enough of it, they can have the glorious division. I just kind of think that what an amazing way to describe the life of a colony.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed this. So the key is that there are stresses that happen naturally. And then there's unnatural stresses, like your door's been plugged and you're on a truck and you're bumping around going down the road.
Yeah.
And it's like, the fuck is going on?
Yep, absolutely.
And so that's a stress. Another thing is like the miticides are a stress, the sugar water is a stress. Opening up the hive, just opening it up to inspect it is a stress. That's not cool. That's not okay. This is, I mean, if they're inside of a trunk of a tree, the tree doesn't just open up, every week. So there's then we can start talking about different kinds of pesticides. Now, for colony collapse disorder, there's a bunch of movies that have come out, and it's been all these nicotinoids are what's causing it. That's part of the systemic stuff inside of this plant, and the bees are getting that. And I'm thinking, like, No, that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it. In this really beautiful book that Jaqueline wrote, which is, I'm going to grant you, it's quite purple. It's quite purple, and I loved it. I loved it. But then again, the way I like to do permaculture is different than the way a lot of other people like to do permaculture. And now, one of the things that Jaqueline wrote about, which she observed, is that there was a worker bee that had gone out and got a full load of pollen and then came back to the hive and was ready to drop off the load, and so arrived. The guard bees stopped her. Now Jaqueline noticed that the wings on this bee were pretty beat up, so this is an older,
Been working a lot.
and so this is and so then the guard bees would not let her in. She's got a full load, she's not allowed to come inside. And so she tried to go in once, twice, and 3 times. On the 3rd time, she kind of caught the clue. You're too old. You know what you have to do now. And so she turned around and she just walked the opposite direction, elected to not fly away, but instead just fall to the ground. Now, Jaqueline saw all this and she kind of freaked out. She goes to rescue the little bee, and then she kind of, puts the little bee in and is like, "Don't worry, I'm a fucking giant. I will totally take care of those guards. Don't worry about it." But this bee was like, "No, that's not for me anymore."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this extremely noble act, which is, the colony is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for the sake of the colony, I need to step aside, and it is now my time. Jaqueline never said anything, but when Jocelyn and I were talking about the book, it's like, I wonder if colony collapse disorder is a little bit like that. And it's like, there are these different songs that happen in the different hives, and sometimes a hive knows it's just all fucked up, and that, and it's about the genetics, and it's like, you know what, we gave it a shot, and everything, and we've got, and as part of the storyline, part of what Jaqueline says that the bees have told her is that in order for good genetics to win out, you have to be able to recognize when you're sitting on shitty genetics, and your whole colony needs to check out. And so it seems like having good genetics, and of course, all of your history is nothing but good genetics. And it's like, but there are the indicators, and it's like, now we know we are not to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's the song of increase, and there's the song of run away,
Of sacrifice.
Yeah, it's the song. Yeah, it's time. We need to end this genetic pool now. This is not a good genetic pool because we're not making a go of it.
We've seen that in societies too, of human societies. You look at like the good and bad, but I mean, you see like the Japanese with the kamikaze kind of during the war, the kamikaze pilots and stuff. You see it with the people that blow themselves up from some Middle Eastern countries now, and there's those kind of societies. But you also see it with Buddhists where they make huge sacrifices for their people, and you see it good and bad in society as well.
So I think that the important thing is that if you go and you stress a colony enough, and there's a lot of ways that the conventional beekeepers are stressing these colonies. So if they get stressed enough, then I think that what you're seeing is, abort mission.
Yeah.
And it's like, Now, I'm not saying it's proven. A lot of people, I'm sure 90% of the people that were watching the show have now left because they think I'm a psycho twit. And that's cool. I think that there's something there, and that's a strong possibility. It makes sense to me, and I frankly, after reading Jacqueline's book, I just feel like honeybee is an incredibly noble creature. Now I know that Jack really likes Michael Jordan, and you've got a bunch of stuff with Michael Jordan.
I like Mike. He's a great guy.
And I've exchanged some emails with Michael Jordan, and despite the fact that I hit Michael Jordan when I was a kid, Michael Jordan, and then I went on Jack's show and I pointed out that there was a guy that said that called himself the Bee Whisperer who did awful things.
That was a different Bee Whisperer, right?
Totally different dude calling himself the Bee Whisperer.
Yeah.
And of course, Michael Jordan calls himself the Bee Whisperer, and it turns out there's about 200 people who call themselves the Bee Whisperer.
Yep. Same with dog whisperers and
not a Bee Whisperer, but the Bee Whisperer. That's cool. That's cool. Jaqueline Freeman is the woman I go to for anything about honeybees. And,
yeah, I'd like to meet her, actually. I'd really like to meet her.
You will. She'll be here at the PDC.
Awesome.
And she's amazing. And if you ever get a chance to be invited to her place, you should go. And again, this is going to be really purple, but man, there is like some kind of cool vibe at her place.
I'd love to go hang out with the bees. I like being around bees. I really enjoy it. When we're at Mike or filming the beekeeping courses and stuff, I love being out there with them.